Well, that was something. Um, Clemson 31, Notre Dame 23. I'm Jordan Bowman. This is my friend and co-host Will ND, and we're doing the Clemson Notre Dame postgame live show, doing a little joint show today. A little bit different from our normal formula, but we decided to give it a shot and try it. Mark gave us the okay. Um, but man, what a game! My fault.
We're
Uh,
good.
Will, I know this is probably not the best, uh, moment in time to do this show, and I know that this is not. These are never fun after losses. Trust me, I've done 4 of these already
Yeah.
this year, so I know the feeling. But kind of tell me, like, kind of give me your overall thoughts from the Notre Dame perspective, because this was just a really strange game. It felt like both teams were at points, they looked really sharp, and at
Yeah.
points they looked like they wanted to give the game away and didn't want to win. So what are your kind of thoughts, overarching from this game?
Just very disappointing. Like also along with the Louisville game, the team looked like it didn't really want to be there. I mean, the second half in parts were a little bit better, but yeah, it's very disappointing. Disappointed in Sam. Disappointed in the receivers. Disappointed in the tackling. Just overall, it was an ugly game for the Irish. And Clemson was not their best at times, which makes it worse.
Yeah, and I'm still trying to process this from a Clemson fan perspective, because going into this game, I picked a loss. I mean, those of you that were here for the pregame show, I mean, me and Tiger Paw Craven picked a loss. And while we're on the topic, I know we started late. Tiger Paw Craven, he is at his daughter's softball tournament, and fortunately wasn't able to make it in time. And there were kind of some logistic issues with that. So, and probably could have rescheduled I should have rescheduled the stream, but I didn't think about it at the time. But from a Clemson fan perspective, there's just so many thoughts going through my head right now. It was kind of a tale of two halves in a way. But this still obviously was arguably the most complete game Clemson has played all year. And they were able to come out with a win this time. And like you mentioned, in a situation where they were not, at their best from, a personnel standpoint. But man, what a game. I guess one of the big questions for me, watching this game is what do you take away for both teams really is what do you take away from this result? Like, is this indicative of, Clemson turning a corner? Is it indicative of Notre Dame and maybe the direction of the program under Marcus Freeman? Like, what are you thinking? Because I'm, in a way, I kind of want to stray away from, taking, big conclusions from this game, but at the same time, you can't help but think about it.
You can't help but think about Jared Parker, man. I mean, the offensive play calling Wes Goodwin just ran circles around him. I felt like pretty much the whole game. I mean, there were some big Audric Estime runs. Sam had a big run, but overall, just the passing was. I know the receivers aren't great and they didn't get separation, but I felt like we just had nothing going there at the end, especially at the end on the offensive end. And unless if he pulls out something big at the bowl game, I feel like Marcus has to reconsider bringing him back in 2024. It's just very disappointing on the offensive end. I mean, I can't complain about Al Golden. I mean, the tackling could have been better, but the defense kept the team in this game as it did all year. It's just the offense has just let the team down completely.
Yeah, and I sympathize with you, because those exact same things are what I've been saying about this Clemson team all season. It's like, man, it would be amazing how good this team would be if our offense actually gave the defense help and didn't, hand points to the other team. And obviously Notre Dame, that pick six was, especially at that point in the game, was pretty big. And that's kind of one of the things. The script was kind of flipped because Clemson, was the team that was giving the football away and not being able to, and allowing teams to take advantage of their mistakes. And I felt like this was, I guess in a way, I mean, you had to think, the pendulum would swing the other direction at some point, but, from everything I had seen from this team up until today, I was like, I just didn't feel any confidence that the luck would, especially from a turnover perspective, was ever going to swing in Clemson's direction. I mean, you take advantage of the muff punt. I already mentioned the pick six. Sam Hartman throws, another interception late in the game. Just those kinds of things. And then Clemson, for the most part, didn't match those same mistakes, although they tried to at times, for sure.
I'm like, recover the freaking fumble, please. I mean, they did recover a fumble, but I was like one that when Clemson wasn't in Notre Dame territory.
Yeah, the snap, the snap over Cade Klubnik's head, I was just like, oh man, please.
Like, come on. I was like, please.
But yeah, I'm so like bewildered at this result because it was just something that I don't think either one of us had seen coming. I mean, we knew it could be
I knew there was a chance that this might happen. It was the worst case scenario.
Yeah, but it did feel like, coming in, Clemson was reeling, and Tyler from Spartanburg was, all the comments from Tyler from Spartanburg during the week, and people were dogging on Clemson, and obviously the injury situation, and some of the indicators that maybe the locker room, frustrations in the locker room and stuff. You just kind of felt like this doesn't really set up well for Clemson in a way. So this is just another reason why college football doesn't make any sense, because the teams that it's any given Saturday in a way.
I mean, transitive property just doesn't work. Like Notre Dame destroyed NC State, Clemson laid an egg in Raleigh.
Yep.
Like Notre Dame lost at Louisville. Pitt beat Louisville.
Yep. Notre Dame beat Duke on the road, and then and Duke beat Clemson at home. It's just kind of weird how this sport works at times, but I think what you saw was, I think you saw Clemson play more to their talent level. I mean, it's as much as me and Tiger Paw Craven have dogged on this team, we've never felt like this team didn't have the players. It just felt like nothing was. Were they being coached up properly? Were we making the right decisions? Do we have? It was like it's just we were always playing with, as Garrett Riley would say, it's like we were playing with 10 every. It seemed like every play, because somebody would always make a mistake and we couldn't get out of our own way. And for the most part, they got out of their own way. And I think that first half, especially, just coming out fired up and building that kind of that cushion that they definitely needed, and allowed them to kind of hold on to the lead, because certainly the second half was not nearly as productive. But I guess from the Notre Dame perspective, I know there wasn't a whole lot positive to take away.
I mean, the secondary was great. That was really. I mean, even though Clemson did make some plays on the secondary, but if we didn't have Benjamin Morrison and Xavier Watts in this game, or even Cam Hart, it would have been bad. So those guys kept the team in the game for sure.
Yeah, no, the Notre Dame secondary was pretty elite for all day, and I mean, obviously plays are going. You're going to give up plays playing, especially corners. You're going to give up plays every once in a while because it's just a hard position to play. But yeah, I mean, they were very on the back end. They did. Clemson didn't have a ton of big passing plays. They were getting 10, maybe 15 yards at the most. Cade wasn't overly explosive, but and they played. And obviously Xavier Watts got that had that interception. seems like he's always where the football
Every
is.
game, last
Yeah.
3 games, it's been
Yeah, it's been
crazy.
pretty crazy. But he was in the right place at the right time. Bo Collins has to catch that ball, unfortunately. But and at that point, I was kind of like, oh man, here we go. I was like, this team is going to give it up. But to their credit, and they gave up the touchdown too, and you just kind of felt. But I think the biggest part of the biggest point in that game was after that touchdown by Notre Dame coming off of
Yeah, I was like, that was the one time I'm thinking, okay, we can actually win this game if we get a stop here and get ball in decent field position. But
yeah, and I think Clemson going down the field and scoring there was
that felt like the dagger.
Yeah, that was paramount because they did, especially knowing that they did pretty much nothing the rest of the game. That was the hinge point, I think, of that game, because you felt like, and you could feel it in the stadium, and you could kind of feel it from that perspective. Like, it was, oh man, we saw this against Florida State. You have that phenomenal first half. You have a chance to put them away, so to speak, and then you turn it over. And in the Florida State game, it resulted in points in a tie game. But it was still kind of the same sentiment, and it just felt like Clemson can't afford to just sit on the ball and sit on this lead. Like, they have to score points. But going down the field and scoring there was a really big deal. And I guess from the Clemson side of things,
hunting wins.
Yeah,
as Iowa says.
Yeah, that's true. And
Aiden Swanson was good.
Yeah, he was. He was, and that's I guess we can get into that, because one thing that jumps out to me from last year was special teams in that matchup. It was a really big point of that game. And Notre Dame was blocking punts and scoring touchdowns. They were they were returning. They were flipping the field. Clemson was in poor field position a lot of the game last year, and they were able to flip the script. And Aiden Swanson, a guy that he's been in the program since 2019, and finally got his shot last year, and he's he was very, very up and down, and a lot of Clemson fans had a lot of frustrations with him. But this year, certainly took a step forward, and in this game, I mean, you don't normally give you the MVP to the punter, but I think you have to he has to be in there, the conversation, because the punting was huge, because forcing Notre Dame and Sam Hartman to try and drive 85 plus yards it seemed like every drive of that second half, and especially in the fourth quarter, you felt like, okay, this defense isn't giving up big plays, so they're going to get a stop. Maybe they give up a first down here or there, but you felt like they were going to get a stop, and that was a big deal.
I mean, I felt like, the Irish definitely miss Brian Mason. He's with the Colts now.
Yeah,
but it looked like in the SC game, although SC is known for their bad special teams, it looked like special teams was finally like turning the corner. Although they gave up that big punt return to that to their star guy.
Oh, Zachariah Branch.
Zachariah Branch.
Yeah, I mean, he's just elite. I mean, that guy's special. So it's
Chris Tyree had a big return of his own in that game. So I was hoping, like, all right, special teams won't lose us the game. But.
And didn't Notre Dame? They had you had a return against Pitt last week too, didn't you?
Yeah, against Pitt. I forgot about that. Yeah.
So I mean, the Notre Dame special teams in the return game was a big part of their success the last couple of weeks, and I thought Clemson did a pretty good job. Punt coverage team was really good, and obviously the muff punt was you can't really you can't create that, but it was good on them to get on it and create a scoring opportunity for the offense. I mean, it felt like the things that Clemson was typically you could count on Clemson to do, Notre Dame was doing, and I think that was a big deal. But Will, what are you? I don't know, because I already mentioned the overarching takeaways, but what are you like the outlook for the rest of the season?
Well, we have Wake Forest and Stanford, so if we don't win any of those games, if we lose one of those games, it's a real red flag. But I don't know, just hopefully a good performance in the bowl game. Hopefully, we might get a transfer quarterback, but I'm hoping we can start Kenny Minchie or Steve Angeli next season because I want us to use our own quarterbacks, not just rely on the portal. So
Right.
hopefully that can get a bit better because Sam, I felt like was still kind of used to his pits at the slow mesh, and he was like being hesitant to throw. So, and the offensive line didn't help him at all. So I'm not going to blame it all on Sam.
No,
Like a lot of the Twitter people are doing, but
it was a physical game. I
Yeah.
mean, in the trenches, like I mean, guys going down. I mean, what? Like Notre Dame was on their third string center at one point.
mhm.
You know, just it was a lot. Sage Ennis and Jake Brenningstool. You know, Clemson's 2 tight ends. You know, were getting rocked.
Mhm.
It was a. I mean, we expected that because both teams, you know, pride themselves, especially on the defensive side of the ball.
Mhm.
But I guess the biggest surprise for me, obviously, was the play of Clemson's offensive line. I mean, you know, Phil Maffa was great today, but the push he was getting was I don't think we've seen that from the Clemson offensive line at all this year. Even against Florida State, it wasn't that good, and that was pretty shocking. I was pretty surprised, but it was kind of you know, the Clemson fan base has been screaming and wondering, and we've, you know, me and Tiger Paw Craven, we've been talking about it, you know, all season about how Phil Maffa had, you know, this year had been the more efficient back, and the numbers, everything, you know, your eyes told you. And it was just kind of strange that a Will Shipley injury forced this offense to finally,
Yeah.
you know, give him the ball, and you know, you see the results. I mean, that was a good Notre Dame front that, you know, Clemson's offensive line was able to get push on. And it was an offensive line that had taken a lot of flack, you know, for not playing well. And obviously, you know, a lot of it was deserved, but, you know, sometimes, you know, the running back has to make a play. And we weren't getting that out of Will Shipley, you know, and I hope Will is, you know, he comes back healthy and all that. But, you know, Phil was incredible today outside of that fumble. But you know, Phil Maffa was the reason that Clemson was in the position they were in for a lot of the day. And so I'm glad it didn't come back to bite him, but he was phenomenal. What are some standout players for Notre Dame? Because obviously the team as a whole, probably there's not, you know, from a position group. You already mentioned the secondary, but anything else?
I mean, Audric Estime had some good runs. I mean, 5 yards of carry is pretty good as well. So,
Yeah,
but
I was
mean,
terrified of him, you know, wrecking us again this year.
I mean, Jordan Faison had some nice plays. The walk on, he showed some speed out there.
Yeah, he was he caught who was it against that he caught that touchdown against? Was it was a big touchdown? I'm already blanking. But shoot, can't even remember. But yeah, there was there was a lot of guys making plays, you know, for Clemson on the defensive side of the ball, and I think that was another thing that was a big deal was, you know, just the youth. Obviously, the injuries that Clemson had, you know, sustained, you know, heading into this game, you know, forced them to play a lot of you know, true freshmen, a lot of young guys, you know, Avion Terrell, Kylan Griffin, Khalil Barnes, and you know, they answered the bell, and I thought that was key. And you get play from that, and then your you know, Clemson stars were making plays. You know, Xavier Thomas had a really good day. He was getting pressure. He didn't finish. I don't think he got a sack, but he was just disruptive the entire day. Jeremiah Trotter Jr. I mean, what more can I say about him? I mean, I've gotten on him a little bit, in recent games and in some of the games that Clemson's played this year that, he just, wasn't seeing the field well and wasn't playing as well as he should. But that was vintage. Like he looked like his dad out there. Like that was pretty incredible. That was an incredible performance. And so, getting that kind of group effort from the defense and in a situation where you really needed it was a big deal. And that ultimately resulted in Clemson being able to hold on. And that's. I mean, I think we covered everything. Clemson obviously the outlook for the season from the Clemson side of things was kind of bleak before this game because you felt like you could lose to anybody, and I don't necessarily think that's changed. To be fair, but getting this game was huge. As far as getting bowl eligibility, as far as the momentum and the trajectory of the season. It was absolutely a big deal. Let's see what the comment section is kind of talking about a little bit.
I mean, Jack Kaiser also had a nice game, linebacker.
Yeah, he was stuffing a lot. He was flying around, making plays and tackling.
But besides that, I would say it's about it.
Let me see. And it was just kind of I felt like this was the year for Sam Hartman, that win over Clemson. But I don't know. It
joins the club with Chris Ricks, I guess.
Yeah. At least from the Notre Dame side of things, most of that is credited to Wake and not Notre Dame. But still, just I think he's cursed here for some reason. Like the last time he was at Death Valley, Wake Forest came in top 10 and, he got sacked like 6 times, threw a couple interceptions. Like, I mean, and again, it's a tough place to play, but, that's just kind of interesting how that played out. All right, let's see. Steel Gamble gets in. He says, we need to go out and smash Georgia Tech next week. Would be a great momentum builder. Yeah, absolutely.
They're smashing UVA right now, 31-10.
Yeah, they're scaring me because they've played really, really well.
They played better on the road than at home, it seems.
It's so weird. And at one point in the season, I think in their win against Boston, I think they beat Boston College last week, or 2 weeks ago. I don't remember. I saw this crazy stat that they had scored the same amount of points as they had given up. Like they had the teams they had lost to, they beating Miami and then losing to Bowling Green. And I have to pull up the tweet, but it was really crazy. Like the kind of it was crazy how just chaotic that team is, and you don't even know what they're going to get each week. So and they're playing good football right now apparently. So that's definitely not going to be cakewalk, and that's probably your easiest game. I mean, you could argue, I guess, South Carolina, but I don't know. They survived against the other Gamecocks today, I believe.
In the Gamecock Bowl, yeah.
Yeah. But absolutely, Steel Gamble. It would be a huge momentum builder from a Clemson standpoint. Sunchance Kid, but I want to get some Notre Dame fans. I know it's probably going to get more Clemson fans in here than Notre Dame, but do want to hear from them too. Congrats, Clemson, for the dub. I never underestimate Hartman and our OC Parker to screw things up. You guys are better than a record. Respect from an Irish fan. Thank you, Sunchance Kid. I think that I've always said, I always enjoy playing Notre Dame. I have a lot of respect for that program. It's kind of been a friendly little rivalry in a way, in quotation marks. Obviously, we're not traditional rivals, but we played so much over the years, and especially in some pretty big matchups. So I always enjoy playing them, and would have sucked to go to lose 2 in a row like that. So, but respect to you as well. Thank you. Jamie gets in and he says Dabo will fix Clemson. One, he will go to the portal. He will recruit Octopus as running backs so this fumbling ends. Yeah. Take away this ridiculous turnover ratio, and we are 8-1, or we're 7-2 now.
Well, you guys still got to fix that position coaching.
Yeah.
But if you go do those four, I think.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, I don't feel any differently, going in, after this game about, what I think needs to happen for the program. I do think that, you got to make staff changes, and it's his decision to decide what staff changes need to be made, and that's an evaluation he'll have to make. But I'm not going to call him for anybody's heads on here. But yeah, and then he's got to address, the needs in the portal. I mean, as great as some of the youth played on defense, you don't want to be totally reliant on, freshmen and sophomores who are, new starters. You want that. And that's kind of the balance that Dabo is going to have to strike, because Clemson does pride itself on, being a developmental program, and, guys that they get in from high school are good. They've developed 3-4 plus years, and, and go to the league, and that's kind of the model. And you get an opportunity if you're good enough to play early. But in this age of college football, not everybody that you are expecting to rely on is going to be there next year. It's just a fact. I mean, Clemson's going to lose people to the transfer portal. It happens to everybody. You can preach about culture and all that, but it's going to happen. So you have to address those needs. And I never expect Clemson to be like do what, teams like Colorado or Florida State, or, it'd be like one of those heavy transfer portal, where they're just constantly bringing in, influxing new talent from the portal. No, I don't expect Clemson to do, but getting guys here and there in spots that, I think you can do that and not sacrifice, the culture that, that you value and how you do things. Because I think there's definitely a middle ground there. John gets in. He says Cage should share the MVP for his punting too. Yeah, that was a pretty good play call. Reminded me. I mean, we did that with Deshaun Watson back in the day too. So that was kind of reminded me of that. It was a good punt. To his credit, for some reason we coach our quarterbacks at punting better than we do, taking care of the football. It's really funny how that works. K Club Nick Enthusiast says, if Clemson's a stock, you better buy all you freaking can right now. Yeah, that's going to be an all timer for sure. That's some BYOG type stuff. And on that note, Dabo does become the winningest head coach in Clemson history. I mean, that's something that should be. Obviously, it didn't come in the type of season that we had hoped, but it does make you just take a step back and appreciate the journey and all that, and what he's brought to the program. Because at the end of the day, Tyler from Spartanburg can question his salary, but there's a reason he's paid as much as he is. The amount of relevance and prestige and and all of that he's brought to Clemson. Honestly, you can't really put a number on it. I've just as someone, as an alum, and seeing how the university itself has grown over the last decade or so, a lot of that has to be attributed to the success of the football program for sure. And Dabo absolutely deserves it, and he finally got it in this one, and it's kind of sweet in a way, even though he had a chance to get it the last two games and wasn't able to get it done. But it's nice to get it at home over a ranked team. That's a big deal. Jim, hey Jim, good to see you from Anderson. I remember you. Glad to see the win. I am Jim, FSU grad, 1981, Anderson, South Carolina. I'm sure you're surrounded by a lot of Clemson orange right now. But good to see you, Jim, and thank you for the congratulations. I think Florida State is playing Pitt today, or right now. Pitt is up 7-0. Interesting. I was not expecting that when I opened my phone. 6:29 left in the second
Jeez,
quarter.
man.
That's something. Let's see. Hard take. Good to see you, man. He says they can't block talking about Clemson's offensive line. Yeah, no, that continues to be a kind of an issue, especially on third down situations, third and medium, third and long. They don't handle it well. That's still something that they don't pass off those assignments very well. But I can't really dog on the offensive line too much because they gave Cade time. They were getting pushed in the run game. That's. It wasn't a perfect performance by any stretch of the means, but it was above average. Like it was enough to get Clemson where they needed to be, and we weren't getting that the last few weeks. Really most of the season. So it's kind of weird. I mean, they played up to their competition against Florida State, they played up to their competition against Notre Dame, and then they would get absolutely pushed around by Wake Forest and Syracuse and NC State, and you're just kind of like, well, what do you don't know what you expect in a given week. Jackson Johnson, he says, "What's up, Tiger Nation? What's up, Jackson?" Jackson does a great job over on the over on his channel and the Jacksonian, and he does an awesome job of promoting all of the Voice of College Football stuff. So make sure you guys check him out. Really good dude. All right, let's see. Drew G says, touchdown Jesus on Dabo's side this weekend. Yeah, absolutely. Got a super chat from Steel Gamble. Thank you. Thank you for the $2. He says Hartman had PTSD from the last time he was in Death Valley.
I just don't think he trusted the receivers. And I mean, have they given them a good reason to earn it? Like, have they earned his trust by their play on the field? I don't think they have. So he's just gotten hesitant now. And it's scary to watch your quarterback not being able to trust your receivers and kind of double clutching everything. So
yeah, it did seem like he was hesitant to really let it loose at times because it just
hopefully he can let it loose against Wake and Stanford.
Yeah,
we'll see.
And that's that Stanford game is at home, right?
No, I mean it's basically a home game because Stanford doesn't have many fans.
Yeah,
it's in Palo Alto.
Good point. Yeah. I couldn't remember where you guys had played them. Where you played them last year, so I was.
No, that was at home, which made that worse.
Let's see. The hard take says 11 million and all these people suffering in inflation for a state employee. I mean that's not true because most of his salary is not paid by the state. He's a state employee because he works for the university, and he gets a base salary of like a few $100,000 from the state. But the rest of his salary is paid by the athletic department, donor, the booster, board of trustees, the donors, fan donations, all of that, all the money that comes in from the athletic department. That's a completely separate thing, and that goes towards his salary. So I always hate when people say he's a state employee making this much money, but the money that is not coming from people paying taxes, well, a small fraction of it is, but so is every state employee's money. But he's not getting 11 million from the state to coach football, and that would be an irresponsible thing for any state to do. Let's see. Anderson, heart of the Tigers. Yeah, it's about as without being Clemson, it's about as Clemson as it gets. Michael Forster says no Coleman or Walker today for FSU. Oh,
I mean they should still be following on Pitt.
Yeah, but I mean Pitt's not very good, and
and apparently Pitt had like a fumble by the goal line too. I mean it's 7-7 now, but Pitt should still be up.
Yeah, that's. Oh yeah, okay, I'm seeing that. Man, they sound. Yeah, that's Pitt decided to cosplay as Clemson today. um, let's see. O-line picked up the blitz all day. Yeah, they did a good job of handling the pressure for the most part today. That was really nice to see. Gave Cade some time, and I think, and that's one thing that we've been talking about all year. It's like if this team had they had something they could lean on in the run game, it takes so much pressure off the quarterback. Like Cade did not have to, like he wasn't pressing. He made some nice throws. Obviously, the interception wasn't his fault. Um, and he didn't have to do too much. He managed the game. And for a young quarterback that's still trying to kind of figure things out, I mean that was invaluable. I mean, we didn't have to put the game in his hands. Um, and that's something that we haven't been able to say. Like we threw 50 times against NC State. Um, like you don't want I mean, as talented as he is, he's not. I mean, he's shown that he's not ready to handle that kind of responsibility yet. He's not, like Trevor Lawrence and Deshaun Watson were, where you were like, yeah, they're going to make mistakes, but also they're going to give you, the wild plays, and they're going to be able to, they're going to make this offense better. Cade just doesn't have that right now, but I think the progression, it definitely helps the progression when you can run the ball and stay on schedule, because it makes the plays when he does have to make a play, it makes it that much easier. Let's see. Yeah, I know a female.
I mean, I'm sure that I'm sure you do it.
Yeah. We all. My mom said called him fine. At one, it wasn't today, but I think like last year or something. Just and it's pretty funny. I saw a message post. It was a message board post. I think it was on TigerNet, or might have been on the 24/7 page. And it was like there are two things, and this was before the game. It's like there are two things. Try not to get blown out, and don't let your wife see Sam Hartman. and then someone chimed in, or Marcus Freeman, and I was like, yeah. So I know a lot of people that who's significant. They were trying to keep their significant others from looking at the screen, for obvious reasons. Let's see. Hustler Inc. just choiced a lot of the best wide receiver on the team, strongest hands ever. I don't know about that, but he's definitely he definitely made some plays today. And that catch, with I think it was on Ben Morrison, where like they were fighting for it and he was able to hold on to it. Going to the ground, that's a tough catch, and that's a guy that we haven't seen much of until this year. So really good to see. All right. L. Scott says Cade's still looking like a deer in headlights. I don't think so. I mean, not today. I didn't feel like he looked really pressured. I mean, the one throw where it looked kind of like he was just chucking it up, it was because he had to get the ball out fast. I mean, that throw, that little corner route to Sage Ennis, that he went down on, that was a really good throw. I mean, he knew he was open. He made the throw. I mean, he had to kind of turn away to avoid the pressure. It just kind of looked like he chucked it up, but it kind of looks like a panic throw, but he knew exactly where it was going, and it was a good ball. So, I mean, I thought Cade was pretty poised. I thought that that drive to go up, what was it, 17-6? I think that touchdown drive, that was elite poise. Like he stood in the pocket, he was firing some darts, and that throw over the middle. I thought that was one thing that was just really refreshing to see from the offense, was the use of slants. I mean, we know. I mean, and Well, we talked about it in the pregame. The Notre Dame linebackers are good, but they're not great in coverage. And I thought Clemson did a good job of exploiting that and taking advantage of it. Using the middle of the field, and it's like, wow, the revelation. We've been. It's crazy what happens when you take those chances, and slants were the name of the day, especially in that first half, and they were having success. And that throw over the middle to Tyler Brown, and that was good on Tyler Brown. It was a really great throw from McCade, really nice catch, and then to shake off the tackle and get in the end zone. That's just stuff that this team hasn't done consistently all year. So, kudos to them. Steel Gamble with another super chat. Thank you, $2. He says, "Run more slants, please." Yeah, absolutely. Don't know why they don't do it more, but because for some reason, I mean, we seem to run it really well. I mean, Tyler Brown was getting, he was getting positions. Bo Collins was getting position on those. Troy Stellato. It's just it's crazy what happens when you use it. Jim said, "I heard Cousin Eddie from Christmas Vacation took Tyler from Spartanburg for a ride to watch the game together." Yeah, man, I put a tweet out. I said, "Tyler's from Spartanburg. I don't agree with your methods, but I think you did us a service this week." I mean, obviously, the team came out fired up, and the jokes are about Tyler from Spartanburg are funny, but it's really good to see one of these kind of viral moments from Dabo not go the wrong way this time. When he was talking about losing a few more games to lighten the bandwagon a few weeks ago, Clemson went and lost 2 straight games. So it was nice for him to, for another viral moment that had social media blowing up for it to kind of go his way this time. Because in the past, those have been kind of prime moments for him to put his foot in his mouth. But today, the team responded in a way that none of us expected, because especially given the injury situation and all of that. Missouri and Georgia are tied at half. So Georgia's in a dogfight with Missouri for the second straight year.
Missouri's a bit better, at least for.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was like, Missouri, I think is.
So it doesn't look as bad for Georgia, but they still got to get their win.
Yeah, Georgia is not as good as they were last year. I think that's pretty safe to say. I mean, they haven't lost, but they're just not as good as they were last year. Defense is still really good, but it's taken a step back. I mean, it's kind of expected. And offensively, they're not quite as efficient. I think Carson Beck is playing really well, but they don't really have those playmakers. The run game isn't as good as it's been in years past. I don't know. Missouri's playing really good football right now. Could be. I mean, maybe they get it done and close the deal this time. That would be nice. I thought maybe Rutgers would shock the college football world today, but obviously it was not in the cards.
I saw a little fumble rooski that they pulled out. Right?
Yeah, they did. They were getting a little creative. I mean, I was like, Greg Schiano wants it back in blood, but he didn't. Wasn't able to get it done. But Ohio State, they're kind of. They're just an example of this season. There's not really one elite team that's separated from the pack quite yet. I mean, really the only team that hasn't really had a struggle win is Michigan, but they cheated god awful schedule, and they steal signs. They scout their opponents' games. So I don't know. Tiger Tom gets in. He says that Notre Dame fans have nothing to be ashamed of. The Irish simply ran into the real Clemson without the fumbles. Clemson is easily one of the top 10 teams in the country, undefeated within the college football playoff mix. I'll push back on that a little bit, because I don't think this is a top 10 team even after this win. And as we've said, this team has the record that it deserves. The 4 games they lost were games they deserve to lose. Yeah. I just, you can't just like, oh, if we take away the turnovers, all of a sudden we're this really great team. I mean, Because beyond that, it's not just turnovers that have done this team in. It's the lack of explosive plays. It's the inability to run the football for most of the year. Cade making poor decisions with the football. Those things don't change if you remove the fumbles. I think this offense took a step forward in a lot of ways today, and they showed some progress. But I mean, I still don't think this is a top 10 team, and they still have a lot of growth to do. And maybe even if it were true that if you take the fumbles away and this team is like undefeated, it would be a very empty type of undefeated or one-loss team. I wouldn't like when I watch this team. I don't think it's, oh man, this team can go and beat Ohio State or Georgia or Michigan right now. I don't see that. But this is a team that's really talented, and with some more time with this group and some of the young players, and they develop. I mean, yeah, we can have that conversation down the road, and we'll see how this team finishes out. Maybe I have maybe by the end of the year, I feel like, okay, this team can play with anybody. But right now, I'm just going to enjoy the win, really, because I don't want to take too many. It's just nice to get a win, because after the last couple of weeks and really just how this season has gone, it really didn't feel like there was much to be optimistic about. You felt like you had the talent, but it's like we have not seen this team put it together. And when are they ever going to actually have a performance and come away with a win? I mean, Florida State, we thought, oh man, this team they've got it together and they've done it. And then they lost, but you felt like, okay, we can build on this, and we can, this team can win out the rest of the year. Then, and you go out and blow out Syracuse on the road. Well, not a blowout, but you won pretty convincingly. And then, and you're still feeling pretty good, but then Wake Forest happens. And then, and obviously the bye week, and then you lose to Miami. Like, stuff like that. It's like, when is this team ever going to do it? Like, they just don't have it this year. But we'll see. We'll see how this team finishes out. But I'll push back a little bit. I understand where you're coming from, Tiger Tom, but I'll push back a little bit on saying this team is easily one of the top 10 teams in the country. I think from a talent perspective, sure. You could say, if this team is playing, if the roster had played up to their talent level this season, yeah, we're having a different conversation. But you can't just go off of recruiting rankings and say this is a top 10 team. Like, this is not a top 10 team. They're not a great football team that you would need to be considered a top 10 team. They're a deeply, deeply flawed football team that has the potential to be top 10 if things, if you make the right personnel decisions, coaching staff decisions, you develop them. Yeah, we can have that conversation.
I was trying to get to that top 10 hype for the Irish, but no.
It is what it is. But I think it's been interesting. I mean, Notre Dame just hasn't. I guess from an outsider perspective, it just feels like the preparation is different on the road than it is.
Yeah. I'm gonna be. I mean, honestly, Notre Dame hasn't been a team that's finished ranked on the road. I mean, there was a game against Carolina in 2020, but that was COVID. To go with it back to it being a team that finished ranked on the road with real fans with Michigan State in 2017.
Wow.
So.
Is that true? Wow.
Yeah, it's true. So, really hoping that Marcus Freeman can turn that around, because we are going to be a playoff contender if we can't win on the road.
Yeah. And I mean, I still think, and for me, I mean, I still am a fan of Marcus Freeman as a coach.
I am too, but
I think he just, I think he
got that Brian Kelly culture of losing.
Yeah, that too. I think there's some leftovers from that, and obviously he got screwed over by I thought he got screwed over this offseason by his athletic director in a lot of ways. Because, I mean, you go out and get Andy Ludwig, a guy that has been doing it for a long time, and put him in a situation where he has a lot more talent than he's working with at Utah. Maybe things are a little bit different. And that's not a slight to Jared Parker. I just, that's just kind of, watching, even, not even just this game, but watching Notre Dame throughout the year, just felt like there hasn't been much of a true identity. There's not something that they lean on really. They do things really well, but it just seems like there's not really, we don't really have our go-to when things aren't working. Like it's just, do stuff and see what works, and it kind of, but it just doesn't really. There's not a whole lot of rhyme or reason to what they're doing. But there's a lot of. Notre Dame is a really talented football team, and they've recruited, even better than what Brian Kelly was doing the last couple of cycles. So there's still a lot of young talent on the team. Rico Flores had that big play. That guy's going to be really good when he gets more reps. So I mean, from a Notre Dame fan perspective, I mean, it's nothing to hold your head about. I still think the future is bright. And they're going to be.
I mean, it's just because like everyone was saying 10-2 is the floor before the season, and now we've dipped below that. So
yeah, I think obviously I think things change if you don't. Probably shouldn't have dropped that Louisville game, but
yeah.
And obviously you had a chance to beat Ohio State. So I mean, there are ways to be like, well, things look a little bit different maybe if we do this, but obviously, even if Notre Dame wins out 9-3, wins the bowl game 10-3, that's still technically a step forward from last year. They finished 9-4, or after the bowl win. Thank you for that, by the way. Just didn't. It was kind of interesting that I think we talked about it in the pregame show, but the South Carolina and Michigan, get South Carolina getting information and signs from Michigan for Clemson and Tennessee, and then South Carolina comes back down to earth against Notre Dame a little bit. I mean, yeah, they scored 38, but a lot of that was special teams, and then I think
pick six.
Yeah, 2 pick sixes I think from Tyler Buckner. So, but other than that, they didn't really have a great offensive performance. So, yeah, I still, from a Clemson fan perspective, I think Marcus Freeman has a bright future at Notre Dame, and he's going to be really, really good. And I think he's going through what a lot of young coaches go through, and it's like kind of feeling their way out about, coaching hires and decisions and how you want to, establish a culture. And I think he knows there are people on this staff that probably shouldn't be on the staff, and some changes need to be made there. But kind of like, because even Dabo, 15 years into his coaching tenure, is realizing that and having to learn lessons. So it's never there's rarely ever a coach that just comes in and has it all figured out. Pretty much no coach comes in and has it all figured out. So I think I don't come away feeling differently about Notre Dame or Marcus Freeman, and I think that program is going to be really good, especially with the 12-team playoff coming in. I think they're going to be a regular fixture. So hopefully Clemson, hopefully
for you guys, Clemson can get it together.
Yeah. I'd like to see more Clemson Notre Dame matchups in the playoff, though. That'd be really good. But with that being said, I think we're gonna wrap it up. Will, do you have any parting thoughts? No, I kind of rambled a little bit.
I mean, hopefully Notre Dame can build better next year with the receivers. Hopefully maybe get a transfer portal receiver, have Cam Williams come in. Hopefully Keedron Young and can take the Audric Estime's spot. But, I mean, I still think the future is bright with Notre Dame, but it's just a very disappointing loss.
Absolutely. And to all my Tiger fans, I enjoy this win. There is a lot of things to be upset about for how the season has gone and the frustrations throughout this entire year. But I just enjoy this win. I saw some fans on Twitter, talking about this needs, these changes need to be made and all that. And then I'm just like, come on. This is the kind of thing that Dabo, I push back on a lot of things Dabo says about the fans, but when when you come out with a win and in the way that you did, and you kind of exercise some demons a little bit from this year, you got to appreciate the win. Like we can have those big picture conversations later in the week, but for now, enjoy this win, and enjoy this win because I did not think this was. I definitely did not think Clemson was going to come out with a win today, and I thought there was a really good chance that they were going to lose in pretty convincing fashion. And this was just a pleasant surprise, and I think just appreciate this one, and we'll have bigger picture conversations later in the week. Make sure that you all the Clemson fans, Notre Dame fans who are also in here, any other college football fans, be sure to check me and Tiger Paw Craven out on here on the Clemson Voice of College Football channel. We do a live show every Thursday at 7 p.m. called the All In Show. So feel free to tune in. Like I said, we welcome all fans, but we'll have those conversations from a Clemson standpoint. The bigger picture stuff. Later in the week, and obviously we'll talk about this Georgia Tech matchup because as much as this game feels good to win, that's a prime. This Georgia Tech team is playing really good football, and that's a prime way to. It's a prime letdown spot, as they say. So we'll talk about that more in the week. And Will, go ahead and plug your stuff.
Yeah, so I'm Marcus_Era on Twitter. Appreciate all the Clemson fans saying that, all the nice stuff about Notre Dame in the chat too. So thanks for that. And check out me, Will ND, me and Jeffrey from Only Talk Sports do a show every Monday. And we rotate each week. So I believe next week is going to be on his. So be sure to check that out. It's a lot of fun. And yeah, just check out the Notre Dame channel. I know the two Irish brothers are going to do their own thing tonight, so give them some love and support. And yeah, good luck to the Tigers for the rest of the year. Hopefully you guys win out.
Same to you, Will. With that being said, I'm Jordan. He's Will. And this has been the Clemson Notre Dame postgame live show. And we'll see you guys later.